About a month ago, we published a video about an EV startup called Aptera. We've linked this video in the description below so you can check it out if you want the full background. If you haven't watched our first video, we'll give a very brief SparkNotes version here. Aptera was originally founded in 2006. They planned to make a two-seater electric tricycle. The company ceased operations in 2011, having failed to deliver a single vehicle. In 2019, the original founders restarted the company. They've raised over $135 million via equity crowdfunding. Non-accredited investors can invest into Aptera's private equity with a minimum investment size of $1,000. They've already burned through most of this money. Their original plan was to begin deliveries in 2021, yet as of 2025, they do not even have a production-ready prototype. Even if they ever do build a production-ready prototype, they lack the funding to build a production line. In our previous video, we concluded that Aptera is unlikely to ever enter production, and the company is likely to go bankrupt before delivering a single vehicle to a customer. There's a YouTube channel called Aptera Owners Club. It's run by an Aptera shareholder and self-described Aptera fan named Steve. With almost 17,000 subscribers, it is the largest channel on YouTube solely dedicated to covering Aptera. Steve noticed our Aptera video and made a response video where he tried to debunk us. Let's have a watch.
They are kind of negative about everything, so that's kind of par for the course for them. So I don't want to spend too much time kind of debunking this. There's a lot of factual errors in this. The video is obviously run and produced by artificial intelligence. The voice is the same voice that does the daily dose of internet. And so if you watch it, you can tell it's like AI scripted and AI voice. And it gets a lot of things kind of confused like AI does.
Steve says there are a lot of factual errors in our video, yet fails to debunk a single one of them. He instead tries to discredit us by saying our videos are scripted and voiced over by AI. None of the videos on this channel have ever been voiced over or scripted by AI. On July 16, 2025, Steve hosted an interview with Aptera's co-CEO Chris Anthony. This interview was very illuminating. After watching it, I realized that Aptera's situation is far worse than we even knew when we made our first video. Over the years, Aptera has created multiple pre-production validation vehicles. These are not the final designs meant to enter production. They're only made for testing purposes. On June 27, 2025, they unveiled the Artemis, which is their latest validation vehicle. The company said that following this reveal, they intend to build a new version called Gemini. Gemini will be a production-weight validation vehicle. This is the vehicle that they intend to mass produce, but it doesn't exist yet. They're still working on building it. To make the Gemini, they need to either make or procure all of the parts of the vehicle in a manner that can be scaled up to mass production. One of the parts they need is the glass hatch that goes on top of the vehicle. Steve asks Chris Anthony about the glass hatch, and the response is very illuminating.
Do we have the glass hatch panel yet, or is that still, we're waiting for the glass for that?
We're waiting for the glass hatch.
Okay.
I thought I saw them making glass roofs, but maybe it's a Reed question. You can do a whole nother video with Reed, and he can
okay. All right.
Hold in on solar fun. But yeah, I think the rear hatch is an extremely large tool.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have to pay some more tooling to actually get that to where we want it to be. So,
okay.
I think we've pushed that off, though. I don't really have a perfect accounting of where that glass is right now.
So Chris Anthony, the co-CEO of Aptera, is clueless as to the status of the glass hatch, which is a key component of the vehicle. It's not like Aptera is some massive company with many different products. They have one product they're trying to develop, and the CEO has no idea what the status is. Aptera's main selling point is that it's supposed to be the most efficient vehicle ever made. Shortly after the company relaunched in 2019, they published a promotional video. They boasted that their vehicle will have 1,000 miles of driving range and can recharge 40 miles per day with its solar panels. However, the Gemini vehicle hasn't even been made yet, so we don't know what the specifications will be. In March of 2025, they released some data for one of the prototypes called Hermes. They claimed that in a test it used 122 watt-hours per mile of driving. They boasted that this is significantly less than the second most efficient EV, which is the Lucid Air. However, this comparison is almost completely meaningless. The Aptera consumes about half as much electricity per mile as the Lucid Air, but the Lucid Air is more than double the weight of the Aptera. The Aptera only has 2 seats, while the Lucid Air has 5 seats. The Lucid Air is a real car, while the Aptera vehicle is a 3-wheeled autocycle. It'd be like bragging that your Fiat 500 gets better gas mileage than a semi-truck. Yes, it's true, but it's not an impressive accomplishment to brag about because the two vehicles aren't comparable. But other than giving that one piece of information about the efficiency of the Hermes, Aptera has given very little disclosures about the driving range and solar performance of its various prototypes. So we really have no idea if they're on track to deliver the bold claims they've made in the past. Steve asks Chris Anthony about when they'll disclose specifications for the Gemini vehicle, which is supposed to eventually enter production.
It says right now.
Okay. Now, when do we have a timeline on when we should expect to see the actual production efficiency numbers, charging speeds, range, that kind of stuff? Like is Gemini going to be done in the next month, 2 months, 3 months? And when do we see that kind of data? Because I think everyone's waiting for that validation data.
Yeah, you've you've kind of been along for the ride since we're a young company, and
Yes.
we've grown in our capabilities. We've grown in our staffing. We're also growing in kind of our compliance and reporting, which is kind of boring, snoozy terms, but we've got a great team that's kind of helping shape the company to be a bigger company that produces hopefully millions of these Aptera over time. And we're kind of following new rules on how we release information. So we've been more careful about making steady announcements and going through our communication channels.
Sure.
Happy to talk to you after we kind of announce some of that stuff, but obviously we want to be the best prepared to be the biggest and most capable company we can be over the next few months, so we can start producing vehicles as quickly as possible. So I know you've got maybe lots of very specific questions, I'm sure, like a lot of our Aptera fans. But sometimes, I'll have to just say, more information is coming because, we're going to be putting it out through our direct channels and, being more judicious about how we release, some of the data and information. But the testing and validation is going great. You can see from pictures in the shop, and I just did an NBC7 San Diego video today. And
Chris Anthony gave a masterclass on how to dodge a question, and says a lot of words that contain no real information. It's hard to even comprehend what he's saying because he's all over the place. Steve asks him when they'll publish the Gemini's specs. He goes off on a bizarre tangent about the fact that they'll only disclose data through official channels, whatever that means. It seems like Chris Anthony has no idea when the Gemini will be completed. He even brings up the fact that he was interviewed by NBC San Diego. This is completely unrelated to the question. When and if they ever complete the Gemini, the company will face another problem. They currently lack the capabilities to manufacture it, even at low volume. Historically, Aptera has relied almost exclusively on equity crowdfunding from retail investors. But with crowdfunding, they can only raise a couple $1,000,000 per month, which is barely enough to pay their employee salaries and keep the lights on. They need a large investment to fund the capital expenditures necessary to set up a low-volume production line. In July of 2024, Aptera attempted to raise $60 million by selling convertible bonds to institutional investors. This was a complete failure. For obvious reasons, almost no institutional investor had any interest in the company. They only sold $618,000 of convertible bonds, about 1% of their target. When they were trying to sell these convertible bonds, they released an investor presentation. They said the $60 million would be sufficient to build a low-volume production line. And once they secured this funding, it would take them 9 months to begin production. They weren't able to raise the $60 million, so this didn't happen. 1 year later, in July of 2025, they filed an SEC supplement. In the filing, they now say they need $60 to $70 million to reach low-volume manufacturing, and this will take 12 to 18 months from the time such capital is fully secured. Steve asks Chris Anthony about the expanding budget and timeline.
So we've been hearing that Aptera needs $60 million and 9 months to make it to production for the last couple of years. But when we saw the latest SEC supplement, it's now $70 million and 12 to 18 months. And it seems like it's going the opposite direction of what we expect, because we would expect the amount of money we need to go down and the time frame to go down, but the money's going up and the time frame's going up. Can you help us understand that?
I think it's a bit of a nuance on the numbers and how you parse, our 3-year plan.
Okay.
Stretch that 3-year plan and looked at the 12 to 18 months before, you'd be like, oh, that's like a $140 million plan. So, now they've cut that by half. Oh, that's great. But if you if you kind of mix the variables, then it does get confusing. But our path is to get the vehicle into production as quickly as possible. As we've continually said, should a benefactor come to us to help us financially make this plan happen, it's about 9 months from when we're able to start writing big checks to when we can actually start delivering vehicles. And that hasn't changed, but obviously we want to grow past that 9 months into scaling into production.
Anthony's response is so incoherent that it's frankly difficult to understand what he's trying to say. He says something about a 3-year plan and $140 million. I have no idea what he's referring to. In July of 2024, Aptera told investors they needed $60 million to reach low-volume production, not $140 million. He then reiterates that it will be about 9 months from when they receive big checks to when they can start delivering vehicles. If that's the case, why do they say in their SEC supplement that it will take 12 to 18 months before they can reach low-volume manufacturing? This SEC supplement was filed just a couple weeks before this interview was filmed. Maybe he's implying that they can deliver a few hand-built prototypes to customers before they commence low-volume manufacturing. None of it makes any sense. The fact of the matter is, the company has a baseline burn rate of between $1.2 million and $1.5 million per month. This cash burn includes 6-figure salaries for Chris Anthony and other senior executives. In the entire year of 2024, they raised $23.5 million from equity crowdfunding. This is a significant decrease from 2023 when they raised $33 million. They're probably exhausting the pool of retail investors who are willing and able to flush more money down this failing enterprise. They also had to pay $1.8 million of transaction fees for the equity crowdfunding, so their net proceeds were only $21.7 million, or $1.8 million per month. Their current rate of crowdfunding is barely enough to keep the lights on. Unless and until they receive tens of millions of dollars from a large investor, they'll just be treading water. So what are Aptera's plans to raise this capital?
Can you elaborate on what these plans are over the summer to get the funding?
There's lots of new, unique funding ways that have kind of spawned out of crowdfunding and, the pandemic kind of turmoil that upset the market. So there's kind of a lot more to evaluate than there was, even 2 years ago or a year ago. So, we're talking with a lot of people, and we think we've got a good strategy coming together, and that strategy will avail itself over time, and we'll certainly make all of our fans aware of when it comes together, because it'll be a day for celebration, obviously, to know that we're set on a path to production and beyond.
Okay, so you're not at liberty to tell us what this strategy is.
No.
Okay, all right, got it.
We are again treated to a word salad. He talks about crowdfunding, which they've already been doing for the past 5 years, and has proved to be insufficient. He references the pandemic for some reason. But don't worry, he definitely has a brilliant strategy to raise more funds. He just can't tell us what it is. The main problem is that large institutional investors don't want to touch Aptera with a 10-foot pole. Chris Anthony addresses this.
When an analyst looks at us, which any billionaire that's going to put money into something usually has a group of analysts and a whole team, and it's a whole thing. As soon as we get to the analyst part, they just don't know what to do with us. Where do you put this round peg into the square hole? Maybe it's more like a teardrop peg into the square hole. But when they're trying to evaluate it, the market is littered with EV failures who have spent magnitudes more money than Aptera to fail.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, we're looking at us and like, okay, they've got very unique technologies, but these other companies didn't have any technology. They still failed. So, how can these guys develop these technologies on a limited budget and get this vehicle to production and succeed? And, I would say that it's just through our grit and determination to make this happen. Steve and I have devoted ourselves to this effort, and our team is working tirelessly to make this vision a reality.
Aptera is certainly facing an uphill battle, but they will succeed thanks to Chris Anthony's grit and determination. But how much grit and determination does he really have? Let's rewind to the very beginning of the interview.
So you've been busy.
Busy, busy.
You just got back from a trip?
Yeah, just went over to Taiwan and Japan with my partner. Had fun with the family. 93-year-old grandma's birthday, so
Okay.
got lots of good ramen. Got lots of good family food.
Okay.
On June 27, 2025, Aptera unveiled its Artemis prototype. The company tried to hype this up as a big milestone. Many Aptera fans and members of the press attended this event. Noticeably absent was co-CEO Chris Anthony. He had more important things to do. He was in Japan enjoying lots of good ramen and family food. Alright guys, that wraps it up for this video. What do you think about Aptera? Let us know in the comments section below. As always, thank you so much for watching and we'll see you in the next one. Wall Street Millennial, signing out.